Today on Bench Briefs, we're looking at a recent decision from the Supreme Court of Canada that tackles some of the most pressing issues in our immigration and refugee system. The case is Canadian Council for Refugees versus Canada, decided on June 16, 2023, and it deals with whether certain changes to immigration laws and procedures respect the constitutional rights of people seeking refuge in Canada. At its core, this case is about fairness and access to justice for some of the most vulnerable people in our society: refugee claimants and immigrants who rely on the legal system to protect their rights and safety. The Canadian Council for Refugees, a well known advocacy group, challenged immediate changes made to the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, along with related regulations. These changes affected how refugee claims are processed and what procedural protections are available. So, what exactly happened? The government introduced amendments that altered the way refugee claimants could present their cases and the kinds of hearings they could access. The changes included limiting opportunities for oral hearings, restricting access to evidence, and tightening timelines for submitting claims and appeals. The council argued that these changes made it harder for claimants to get a fair hearing and to fully explain their situations. They claimed that the new rules violated fundamental justice principles under Section 7 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which protects life, liberty, and security of the person and guarantees fair legal procedures. They also said the changes breached equality rights under Section 15 by disproportionately affecting vulnerable groups, including refugees fleeing persecution. The Supreme Court had to consider three main legal questions. First, did these changes infringe on the principle of fundamental justice by making it impossible or unfair for claimants to present their cases properly? Second, did the amendments discriminate against certain groups, violating the equality rights guaranteed by the Charter? And third, did the procedural reforms undermine the constitutional right to a fair hearing, especially given the high stakes involved in refugee claims where people's lives and safety are on the line? In its decision, the court carefully examined the balance between efficient processing of refugee claims and the need to protect constitutional rights. While the government argued that streamlining procedures would help manage backlogs and improve the system's overall function, the court emphasized that efficiency cannot come at the cost of fairness and justice. The court found that some of the challenged provisions did indeed violate fundamental justice principles because they restricted claimants' ability to fully present their cases and limited access to oral hearings without sufficient justification. Regarding equality rights, the court acknowledged that the procedural changes could disproportionately affect vulnerable claimants, including those with language barriers, trauma, or limited legal representation. The court stressed that the rights of these individuals must be safeguarded to ensure substantive equality, not just formal equality. Why does this case matter? It sends a clear message that when it comes to immigration and refugee law, the government must uphold constitutional protections even as it seeks to improve efficiency. Refugee claimants are often fleeing dangerous situations, and their ability to access a fair and thorough hearing can literally mean the difference between life and death. This decision reinforces the principle that Canada's justice system must be accessible and fair to all, regardless of their status or background. It also highlights the ongoing tension between administrative efficiency and human rights within our legal framework. Governments may have legitimate reasons to reform immigration procedures, but these reforms cannot override the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Charter. This case sets an important precedent for future immigration policies and ensures that constitutional safeguards remain a cornerstone of our refugee determination system. Thanks for listening to this episode of Bench Briefs. Join us next time as we unpack more key legal decisions shaping Canada's justice landscape. Until then, take care.